All right, and can you guys see my screen? Okay, sorry. Let's see. Let's try now. All right, great. So, I mean, for those of you that are getting it, I mean, the two of you seem like you're doing pretty well so far. I just wanted to show some additional examples. If you haven't used Adobe TV before, it's got some great examples and it's got a lot of different people presenting different types of tutorials. It's all videos. The only thing that I put a note in here, most of these videos are in regular Flash, not Flash Builder. The code's going to be the same. It's just going to look a little bit different. So that's something to be aware of. A lot of the YouTube videos that you're going to see may be the same. You might have people looking it up or doing the examples in Flash rather than Flash Builder. Most of the videos that are specifically Flash Builder are more like how to use it, how to set it up, how to debug. But you've already been provided a lot of information on that. So I just kind of wanted to show you some of these things. So the ones that say help.adobe, these are the ones that are referenced a lot in the videos where it goes in and you're going to see like lists of different things that you can read about related to ActionScript. I think those were mentioned quite a few times in the video, just quickly referenced. It's a quick, I guess, a quick reference point for you. So if you want to see just a little more information about something or really understand, oh, I need to find out more about arrays. Here's what an array is. There's some examples of how it's used. So that's what this is more, what it is, rather than like, I guess, specific examples. They'll show you samples, but they're going to be very, very basic. That's why I found some other examples here. So on just adobe.com, and then you have this DevNet part of the site, there's some really good tutorials in here, and they're done a little bit differently. They are set up more like the problems you'll be doing. So they might have examples that would help you if you're trying to figure out, how can I figure out how many times apples is in this array? This might be a place to do some research and actually find something similar, or find something that helps you a little bit more. And I have a few students that are really having a hard time with, they understand how you might solve the problem, but they can't get it to work in code. So I kind of wish some of them were available tonight, but that's why I put this list together as a PDF as well. So let's look at this. All right, so these are a little bit differently. You can navigate through to lots of different things. I just pulled up functions as an example. They'll talk about what you need to know first. It's going to go over a lot of different information about each element. One thing that's nice is, you've heard the same person on video talking about everything you're learning this month, and everyone explains it a little bit differently. So this might be a way to just get a little bit different perspective, have it explained to you a little bit differently, see some examples that that you haven't seen in class, and you might see something that makes more sense to you, rather than exactly what's in the video or the exact examples that have been used in class. So there's more information about, in this example, what a function is. You can read about it. You can go in and see some examples. And then what I like about these is they actually will do some functional examples. They work with tracing. They're setting variables, using different, and you'll see this one's about functions, but they're using math random, and then they'll talk about what math random does. So they kind of cross over. You can see how different things would be used together. Just a little bit different. So here's another example where they're actually making something happen. They're going to tell you what things are. And I don't want to find examples online that are going to be exactly the problem that you're going to be learning, but I want you guys to find just some more examples of something similar, or just something that's done in a different way. And that's part of why we have you. No problem. So Charles just joined. This is going to be really basic tonight. We're just covering where you can find some additional examples. So in class, in the videos a lot, help.adobe.com is mentioned. And this is where you can go in and find definitions, a few examples. You can find lists of all the different properties, methods, like everything, classes, everything that you can use with ActionScript. It'll show you a little bit about how to use it. But then on this dev site that's through Adobe, so it's adobe.com/devnet, they have more specific examples, more information. It's explained a little bit differently. So I wanted to point this out as an additional resource for you guys. So it's kind of going through, just showing you, they're actually solving problems, maybe not doing is exactly what we're going to be doing in class, but a lot of times you might find something similar in here. And as I've been looking through these earlier and in the past, I have seen quite a few examples that I think would be helpful for the projects in this class. Some additional things that I've added to this, and this is a PDF. If you guys didn't see it, you can download this so you don't have to go back and watch this video if you don't want to. So OOP, object-oriented programming, you've gotten an intro to it basically this month. You are going to have an entire class on OOP. Most of you will have it right after this class. So some of these OOP videos are information might be good to read over this information. And then in the video examples, there's, for those of you that came in late, there's a few examples that are a little bit more advanced than what we're doing, or even, this last one, real world example, is probably more advanced than a lot of what we're going to do next month too. I just thought it was neat to see, see where this all goes eventually. The simple button library. So in regular Flash, honestly, when I work in Flash, I usually just build my own buttons. I find that it's really quick and simple to build your own. I'm trying to even remember if the latest versions, if it's easy to get to the library. Some of the older versions of Flash had all sorts of libraries that you could access. I don't use regular Flash a lot anymore. I used to use it all the time since it was Macromedia. But you know what? I'm not 100% sure the best answer for that question. So I don't know if everybody can see it. I think you should all be able to see it. Where can you find the simple button libraries? I will get back to you on that. I just want to go in Flash and double check and not give you an incorrect answer, but I'll double check on that. I'll get back to you guys on that. But in Flash, if you're going to create libraries, like, you can create your own elements if you want. I know you did a lot of that in one of the previous classes. So if you guys want to create some of your own elements, you can. For the calculator, there is a small part of your grade that it is supposed to look nice. So you are supposed to pay attention to design. Oh, you guys didn't go over creating hover states? See, I don't even know exactly. I'm new to the department, so I apologize. I don't know exactly what's in the previous class. I could send you some demos on that if you want. Maybe I can do that along with helping you find how to access the libraries. So I'll make a note to make sure that I follow up with you guys on that. I will just do that as an announcement for the class. So buttons, all the states, they're pretty easy to create, and they're kind of fun. Once you get in there and you understand how it works, they're kind of fun to play around with, and then you can completely customize what you're working with. All right, so actually have a pretty good turnout this week. So for those of you that were a little late, I think, Carlos, you're probably the last one in. So this week I was just trying to show you guys some additional examples of places I use as resources. So just once again, the help.adobe is the site that's referenced a lot in the videos. So we show the videos a lot, or show this as a quick reference. A lot of times if I'm coding, I may just leave this up as a quick reference for things. And that's okay to do. All the developers I know use references. I know very few people that can sit down and just code everything completely from scratch. Especially those that are getting into eventually like JavaScript and installing jQuery elements on websites. There's so many existing things out there. A lot of people I know don't take the time to sit down and make one on their own. They're going to use something that's existing. So using references, using resources is perfectly fine. For these assignments, if you're trying to figure out something and you're having a really hard time figuring out how to work the code or what's going to make this function, don't be afraid to Google it. I don't think you'll find the exact answer, and I wouldn't encourage you to cheat, obviously, but you might find something similar, or you might find something that just makes sense to you. So that's what this other site is, the adobe.com/devnet. It just has additional examples, and things are explained a little bit differently than in the videos and a lot of the resources for class. So that's one of the reasons that I put this up here. And you'll see a lot of different examples. If you scroll to the bottom, they'll have where to go from here. They'll tell you additional things that you can learn about. It's all pretty much tied together. So as you can see, all of the video or the tutorials that are up here that are the adobe.com/devnet, those are going to go to that site. And I feel like they're explained pretty clearly. So it's just one more place for you guys to see examples. There are some good examples on there too that aren't just let's try something random and see what happens. They're actually solving a problem. And then you get into, okay, perfect. So I was going to say I'm pretty sure there was a quick and easy way to get to it, but I honestly haven't opened regular Flash in a long time. So sorry about that. It's a shame that Flash is not being used as much anymore. It's a fun program and it can do so much. But, luckily things are switching over to JavaScript, which is similar. And I do actually know a lot of people working in game industries and some other industries that are still using Flash quite a bit. I have a good friend that's real high up with a pharmaceutical company in New York that he does a lot of animation and creates things for them. And they use everything they do is done in Flash. So it's still out there. But it was nice when it was very prevalent. I've had several animation jobs, little also off topic, but all the shows I've worked on have all been done in Flash, or at least part has been done in Flash. So lots of things you can do with Flash, and it's still being used for a lot of those shows. All right, so back to our list here. So for those that just want a refresher on some basics, this may even help, if the calculator assignment, if you get stumped on something, just take a minute, go in here and maybe read a little bit more about like conditional logic. All of what we're doing with ActionScript is based off of logic, if-then statements. So even reading that can help you with formatting your solutions or just coming up with the answer to the problems a little bit better. Code syntax, if you're getting errors, code syntax might be a good one to go in and read. I've had a few people that were having issues getting their traces to come out right. So, go in, read using trace. It's also nice that all of these examples are going to have examples of trace statements and how they're used for each one of these things. So there's different examples of, different problems in every one of these. I've had a few people getting confused with arrays lately. I don't think anyone is really confused as to what an array is, but I've had several people that get a little bit confused on like how to use them and when they're using an array in combination with, say, loops or in their functions. It depends on what you're doing. So if you guys see the question that Charles just typed up, it really depends on what you're using. OOP is actually related to ActionScript and JavaScript. So OOP, learning, what we're doing in here and what you're going to do in the OOP class is all very, very similar to Java. jQuery is based off of JavaScript. It's a little bit different. I think it's pretty easy to use, especially once you learn this class and you start getting into some JavaScript, you'll see how similar it is. And then, all these programming languages are similar. So once you learn one, it's pretty easy to pick up others. Even CSS is based off of if-then statements, and you'll see similarities for those that haven't done any CSS yet. You'll see similarities in the formatting to what we're doing now. You using the brackets, you're ending lines with semicolons. So everything tends to be, it's like just steps, each one off of the other. But I mean, learning ActionScript, even if, let's say, in the future you get a job and they don't ask or they don't have you doing anything with ActionScript, if you got hired for something with JavaScript, you're going to be doing a lot of things that are similar to what you're learning now. So, and this class was actually written knowing that in the future you guys are going to be doing JavaScript and that it may someday in the future actually switch to a JavaScript class. So it's written in that way. But don't worry, there's still lots of Flash related stuff out there. You know, Apple likes us to think that Flash is going away. We can't see it on our iPhone, so that means it's bad. But like I said earlier, I know of all sorts of things that are done with Flash, from the animation industry, you know, to programming. There's a lot of things. So I even occasionally still see a website completely done in Flash, although that's maybe not the best idea these days. I sometimes like to use Flash elements on a website, but I think ActionScript these days is primarily used more for gaming and for coming up with, I don't know, like programs for websites, things like that. But yeah, I'm happy to try to answer questions like that anytime. So hopefully you guys will take some time and actually go through and read through some of these things. Anything that's a little bit confusing, these are just going to be a different way that it's solved, so, or that it's explained. So, and as you scroll down, you can see, you know, they're not just like, this is an array. It's a list of whatever, a list of values. They're going to go through and they're going to tell you, here's one way you can use it. You know, they're going to tell you how to manipulate it. As you keep scrolling down, you know, they're doing a lot of different things here. So, you know, maybe some techniques you find in here we haven't specifically covered in class. If you want to try some of these things out, the only thing I will say is if you try some of these things out and it's not something covered in class, make sure you add a comment and just say where you got it so that I don't think you copied all your code from somewhere. So that's part of what we have the comments for. So remember we used splice. That was in one of the videos. I think it was around the same video where we used splice and then we went over pop. But so a few different things you can do with arrays. Some people have been having some issues. Back over here. Loops, I know loops were a little bit difficult for a few people, so here's additional information on loops. Again, the help.adobe is going to be more just kind of like, this is what a loop is, whereas this DevNet site, also through Adobe, has additional examples. Yeah, I think these are helpful. I have used in the past, so it was about probably 3 years ago, the last time I taught ActionScript classes, and I use Adobe TV a lot for my classes. Also for like my web design classes I've taught, I've used Adobe TV a lot. It's just tv.adobe. There's all kinds of stuff on there. YouTube, I mean, you're going to find some stuff on YouTube that's not as great, but a lot of what's on there, you can find some really, really good information. So these text resources, yes, they are great, and they show the examples, but I also have down here some video examples. And for those that came in late, just so you are aware, most of these videos are in Flash, not Flash Builder. So it's going to look a little bit different, but your code's going to be the same. So let's say, you know, this first one, if we go into Adobe, it's Adobe TV, tv.adobe.com. I recommend this site for anything you guys are working on that you may be using an Adobe program, which you'll have other classes where you'll be using stuff. But there's a lot of good videos on here. Some of these videos also show up on YouTube. You also have the opportunity, you know, this is by Doug Winnie. Let's say you really like videos by this guy and he explains it in a way that makes sense to you. The sheet with all the resources is on the assignment for logging on to this GoToTraining. So the PDF is attached.
In every project we've done so far, everything worked exactly the same every single time.
So I'm going to kind of skim ahead just to show you guys some of what goes on here. He does a nice explanation of what he's working on. Let's see if we can find where it actually starts. All right, so you can see it looks a little bit differently than how we're working because it is in Flash. But he's going to go through and he's going to show you, again, additional examples. So you may see something in these videos that's similar to what we're trying to figure out in class.
I'm assigning that
So, and just let me know if anyone can't find, this is, I saved it as a PDF is what's attached to the assignment. I have it in a Google Doc, but you'll be able to click on all the links through the PDF as well.
You notice I always get
so, and there are some good ones. This DevNet,
that's somewhere between 0 and 1. That's what the random function does.
So, and this guy, I think he does a good job explaining. So I actually added quite a few of his videos. But over here, this DevNet on functions, it has a lot of information. So that might be a good one for you to read. There's a lot of examples. There's also down here, let's see. Okay, I didn't put a video specifically on functions tonight, but I just wanted to put a few examples so you can see what's out there. There are functions used in some of these, so like in the OOP video, as well as thinking in ActionScript, as well, this real world example, you're going to see some examples of functions, but there are certainly videos out there. There's probably some good ones by this guy. If you want to go in, you can go straight to the list of all the videos that he's done in this particular lesson. He has videos that are done related to other things. So we're in ActionScript 1.1. There's all kinds of additional things out there. So Adobe TV is great. This guy, I think his videos are just well put together, and they're easy to follow.
In every project we've done so far.
Oops. And he kind of crosses over to different things that we're covering. He's not just going to talk about math random. He's going to talk about other things, and you're going to see examples of using math random along with a lot of the techniques that we've been covering this month. Loops. If anybody had issues with loops, he goes over loops in details. You can see there's a lot of loop videos here. Again, here's arrays. He's using arrays in loops. So lots of information here that, again, have examples that you guys can look at that may trigger something that's going to help you figure out how to solve these problems. So, and I know there's not a lot of examples that we give you in the class. That's why the video last week I did kind of the long example. And hopefully that was helpful. Those of you that logged off, we had come to an error. It ended up being I had a letter that wasn't capitalized, something silly that I was able to fix quickly. And then the trace results were working great. And then I went back. What I was planning to do at the very end was go back and explain every line of code. For a longer problem like that, I didn't want to get lost as to what I was doing. So I sort of just kept going along. And then at the very end, I put notes on everything to explain exactly what every single thing was. So if you guys didn't see that and you wanted to see a little bit more about like what exactly was happening in that example, it's all there for you. So I can send you the file if you would like. Another thing that might be really helpful to you guys, I don't know if you've seen or if you noticed on the first couple assignments for the go-to trainings, there should have been a link in there to a resource that has videos of old go-to training sessions. And in some of those, the previous instructor, Rebecca, actually covers a little bit that's like parts of some of the problems you have to solve. So you might poke around in there. I was watching some of the old videos. I know in the first go-to training, I think the link was in there. I'll go find it and make sure that you guys actually have it. But yeah, there's resources of old videos you can go through and watch from these sessions. And I did see in a couple of the videos that she was showing examples that were very similar to some of what you were doing. So just FYI, use all your resources. Learning this stuff, learning code is not easy. It's like learning a new language. If you're learning Spanish for the first time or, any other language, you're going to try to use all the resources you can. You're going to have to spend a lot of time with it to really get it. And learning any programming language is exactly the same. Before teaching this class, I was teaching just HTML and CSS. I think it's a little bit easier to learn those, but I had students struggling just as much as, some of you guys are trying to figure out how to write a function with loops and arrays and all this stuff going on, and I have students struggling just as much just learning HTML and CSS. So all of it is like learning a new language. They're all a little bit differently, but there's similarities between all these programming languages. So I think you'll be pleasantly surprised in the future. When you try to learn other languages, it'll come kind of naturally. You'll know the syntax, you'll know how things work, you'll understand the logic behind the problems. So all of that's going to be helpful for you. Um, So yeah, and that's great. I actually started out with just HTML before CSS was around, and then slowly went on to learn quite a few other programming languages. I've taught PHP and MySQL, although I don't use it a lot. So, and that's something with code as well, is use it. They say if you don't use it, you'll lose it or whatever. um, but use it. You have to practice, or you're not going to remember this stuff. So, I mean, I can say that with not having taught ActionScript in a couple years. I don't use it on an everyday basis. So you really have to keep up with it. Did anybody have any other questions? I mean, I don't want to sit here and just watch videos during this. You guys can watch them on your own and watch the ones you think will be most beneficial to you. I mean, just for fun, if you want to watch the real world example, I just think it's interesting to see what you can do with this. There's a lot of games that are done with ActionScript. I mean, a lot of the games people are playing on Facebook or in apps, a lot of that was coded through Flash and ActionScript. I've worked with people on a couple different games, like basic games where I would start and do the artwork for them and then help them out with the code. But usually you work in a team setting with this too. Almost every project I've ever worked on that's not my own, you're working with a big team. So everybody kind of has their part, and it's fun to work with people, bounce ideas off each other. Yeah, so there's Angry Birds. Flash is big, and it's not going away. So don't listen to all the rumors. ActionScript is a powerful language. It's almost the same as JavaScript. Very, very, very similar. Let's see. So Adobe TV. Oh, and I was just going to show you guys. So we looked at Adobe TV. You can see an example. The videos are usually nice quality on here as well. And it's not just this guy, Doug Winnie. There's other people that teach some of the, or do some of the videos and teach the tutorials. Some additional resources. Build YouTube. If you go on YouTube, I mean, you can find all kinds of stuff. You might have to filter through it a bit to find tutorials and videos that are actually beneficial to you. But let's say that I want AS3 loops, Flash Builder, see what we find. So all kinds of stuff on here. Some of them are going to be better than others. If you find, let's say you find one person, I found one earlier that had really good videos. Let's see if I can find it again. This one, Cameron Christensen, the videos were pretty good. Good explanations, lots of different videos. You have to search for them though. He or she has several playlists with different topics, but they didn't have one specifically on AS3 that wasn't related to like intro to Flash. But there's some great videos out here, and all of these people are going to be doing different types of problems. So as you watch these videos, maybe you'll see one that you're like, oh, that's like one of the options on number 2 in the functions lesson. Like there's so many examples out there. And that's one of the reasons too why we don't provide you with tons and tons of examples. There's so much out there. And we also want you to figure it out. Like we don't want to just provide you with everything. Part of learning these programming languages and learning how to code, and if you want to work on games, you have to solve problems. You have to understand logic, and you have to be a problem solver. So you have to really think it out in your head, even diagram it out for something more complicated, and then sit down and think about like, how can I make the code solve this problem? You know how to solve it in your head, you know how to solve it mathematically. So how do you apply that to your code? So the more examples you see and the more practice you do, you're going to get better and better. So, I mean, that's the best advice I can give is just practice, practice. That's what's going to make you remember this stuff. Repetition. is key for learning programming languages, just like if you were learning another language, spoken language. Apparently my dog is not excited about ActionScript. Anybody else have any questions? Yeah, it can be tough at first. But you guys can also try things. I allow you to resubmit work. So let's say that you try something and it's not really working. You can submit it anyway. And if you have errors or it's not working or you're not getting the trace result that you want, then I can look at it and send you back some notes and then you can try it again. So, and I know the deadlines, I didn't originally decide on the Thursday deadlines. My classes in the past have had Friday or Sunday deadlines. So, that may be something that changes in the future. But as long as you guys notify me or let me know what's going on, I'm fine with giving you a little extension. If you don't tell me and you just turn in things late, that's when you'll lose points. But if you communicate and tell me, I'm working on it, but I'm having a hard time or whatever. And most of you have been good about communication, but if you just let me know what's going on, I will work with you. And I've had a few people that will chat with me. They might just say, I'm stuck on this one thing. I'm not sure how to fix this or that. And I can give them a quick hint and then they figure it out. So it may just be something really simple, or occasionally you have somebody like I did in the example last week where I had a variable was uppercase one place and lowercase another place, or missing an S on the end, missing a semicolon somewhere. You get those things here all the time. Like those little mistakes are easy. Sorry, my dog is very vocal tonight. The Thursday deadlines. So, part of it initially, and that's why I had Friday deadlines in some of my other classes, was to try to give you guys a little break in between assignments. But I know with working full time, it's tough. So just tell me if you need more time. That's fine. We can work on it. But I feel like when you're working on your problems, if you get stuck on something, rather than just stopping, try something. Put something in and see what you can do. Play around with it. For a lot of the problems that you do, there's multiple ways to solve them. And trust me, when I'm grading, every person's assignment that I open is done a little bit differently. So grading takes forever in this class because, you have to check, oh, does that method work? Does this method work? And somebody, it looks like it's perfect. And then someone else did it completely different. And then it'll turn out theirs works great too. So there's more than one way to do things in here. And part of it's almost like a math class. Yes, repeating forever can be bad. But also go back and watch the videos again, the tutorials and videos that are with each assignment. If you watch them once, you probably miss things. So even if you're taking notes, and following along, there's probably some things that you miss in there. So I find that it helps a lot to go back and rewatch the videos, check over your notes, try something again, and really just talk yourself through the problems can be really, really helpful. Don't overcomplicate it. That's another one that happens a lot. I might get one assignment turned in that's solved in 4 lines and somebody else solved it in 20 lines, where the 4 lines worked just as well as the 20 lines. Try to keep it as simple as you can. When you're working with a game or working with something that's going to have tons of code, you don't want to have 20 lines when you could have gotten away with 4. So let's see. Does anybody else have any questions? If anyone else has found tutorials or resources that they found have been really helpful for the class, feel free to share with your classmates. I'm always looking for additional things that I can share. Full Sail's pretty strict on what I can give you. So Adobe, that's why I'm kind of sticking with Adobe right now. Linda's great. You've had assignments to watch some of the Linda videos. There's, not that many. But if you go in and look through Linda, the handful of Linda videos that we have suggested you watch is nothing compared to what's out there. You can go through entire training programs on Linda and learning ActionScript or learning pretty much anything. Another place that I like to give let's see, W3 schools. Not sure if you guys have looked at this site. So W3, is World Wide Web Consortium, managing everything, governing the web. This site, you can go through and learn pretty much any code that you want. It doesn't have a lot on ActionScript, but it does have a lot on JavaScript. So might be something to just start looking at because it is extremely similar. And let's say that you go through some of the JavaScript tutorials or go through some of the lessons, you might see a problem solved that's really similar or almost identical to something that you're doing with ActionScript. So just one more resource for you. This one might be great too once you guys are in some of the other classes where you're learning some of this other stuff. So if you go in here, like here's your list of, here's all the HTML tags in the whole world, everything you can use. And then over here, the tutorials will actually let you type in the code and like test things out, which is kind of nice. So just good site to keep on the back burner or bookmark it. That's pretty much what I wanted to talk about tonight. Does anybody else have anything to add? Any additional questions? You guys run into issues with the calculator this week? Remember, I'm on chat pretty much all day. I know if you're at work, that can be tough. But if you need to schedule a chat time that's not during the normal chat hours, just tell me and we can schedule a time. Obviously, it's 8:30. I am available other times of the day. I just need to know. I'm not just going to sit on my computer all night, not know if someone's going to message me. All the certifications that are out there, I have mixed opinions. For code, I think it's great to add things like that. With a degree, your employers are kind of assuming that you know it. I think certifications can be a nice addition. Like if you have the time and you want to do it, you can do additional certifications, add it to your resume. It certainly isn't going to hurt your resume. Same thing with the Adobe certifications. If you have a degree, then again, it's more assumed that you're going to know the software. If you don't have a degree or you're trying to get freelance work before you finish or something like that, it could be great to say, I'm Adobe certified and blah, 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 and I have these other certifications in, whatever programming language. So, it's kind of up to you. With the degree you're going to get, I don't think it's something that you have to do, but it definitely isn't going to hurt you. So, and off-track topics are fine. That's why I kind of wanted this to just be discussion. I felt like last week with the long example I was doing, it was getting a little bit tedious trying to get through it. So it's nice to have a conversation. The calculator is, I don't know. Some people are going to find it easier. Some people are going to find it more difficult. You're using some different techniques than what have been used in the other assignments. So it's going to be more, like the display list assignment, you finally have something visual that you're looking at, which is kind of nice. So you can see what you're doing, actually creating something with the code. And it's going to be more like that. You're going to have to create input fields, which aren't difficult, but, it's different. And it's the only assignment that we've really done that on. So I don't know. I don't know. I want to say it's more difficult or less difficult. Some people probably will find this one easier. Some people might find it more difficult. But you're built kind of everything we've done in here so far is building up to this. So you're probably going to use functions. You're probably going to use loops. You're going to use different things on this assignment to make everything work. So, and don't kill yourself with developing the graphics. Make it look nice, but it doesn't have to be this amazing killer looking calculator. I just want to see that you put a little effort, that it's not just bare bones like text fields on a blank white background. So actually make it look like something that I can see that you put a little time into it, but it's a very small portion of your grade. And some of you guys will like designing better than others. I know a lot of programmers and developers that hate to design. I work with one guy that anything design related that comes up, he immediately hands it over to me because he refuses to do it. So it's kind of nice to form partnerships with good designers too if you don't like to design. So yeah, and you're going to run into that too, that some people are going to be bigger on design than developers. I get that more over in the one of the other web classes I was teaching was in the digital art and design program, and we were just teaching them basically Dreamweaver, just HTML and CSS. So that over there, you had almost all designers that kind of wanted to learn to develop, but not a lot. I think you guys should join forces. I think the DAD students should join forces with the web students and make beautiful, well functioning websites and games and whatnot. You can use the libraries in Flash. You can use existing things out there, but don't use anything that says like stock iStock photo on it or something. Try to, if you can, create the elements yourself, but you can use existing elements if you want. It's more going to be how it all comes together and then how it functions. I just want to see that you paid some attention to the design. We're more focused on that it functions well, not that you designed all your own, brilliant artwork. Anybody else have questions? So I'll answer both those questions. So for the master's degree, if you want to get work in education at some point, it's great. Or if you want to quickly advance to like a high level, more like managerial type position, it might be good. So, an example, like for me, I got my master's. And I mean, I'll start out telling you my background. My background actually is in design. Before I ever did anything with development, I took classes way back long ago. Took web design classes. The first one I took was called experimental web design, and it was in like the first or second version of Dreamweaver ever. There wasn't CSS yet, so we were very limited. We were building websites with tables and not much styling. So it was interesting. I didn't actually do much more web after that for a few years. I learned, if anyone ever heard of or used Director. Director was a pretty cool program when it came out, and I took classes, learned Director. Director was used for a long time to create like interactive kiosks or DVDs, or like, probably not DVDs, CD-ROMs, which were huge in the late 90s, more probably like early 2000s. But Director was very similar to Flash, and it just kind of happened that Flash was the one that took off. Initially, Director was the only one that you could use lots of different media with, like video. You couldn't use Flash with video at first, but eventually Flash added all these additional things that it could do. And ActionScript was a much more powerful thing than what Director was doing. So yeah, I think that if you have worked as a designer developer, adding some of the skills you're going to learn in this program are awesome. I mean, there's so many jobs out there, especially now. Like, there's the apps are huge, and pretty much any web higher, especially higher paying or higher level web positions that I've seen, they're going to want you to know all these additional programming skills. So I think it's a good thing to add. So going back, when I decided to get my master's, I had worked as a graphic designer for several years and then decided I wanted to do something more. Wanted to learn more about animation. I did 3D animation, visual effects, was working with After Effects and Maya. And then that was up in New York. And then I worked in a variety of different jobs for a few years before actually coming back to web. So I worked on several kids' TV shows as a designer and then as a visual effects artist. I worked at Miramax very briefly as an intern and then assistant to an editor, which was a really fun job because I got to watch all the movies before they came out. Um, but my favorite job I've ever had, honestly, was doing visual effects. So it's kind of funny that I've fallen back into web. When I finished my master's, my husband and I started a web design development company that we've been working on for about 4 years. And that's really when I focused again on web. Um, After I got my master's, I also started teaching. Living in New York is very expensive, as I'm sure people know. So I was doing visual effects during the day and then started doing some teaching at night. And I was teaching some web classes, teaching all kinds of stuff at the school in New York, but started doing a little web here and there. And I wish I did more 3D. 3D is really fun, but I don't find the opportunity to do it a lot with what I do now. But I mean, I've done a lot of different things. I love doing web now. For the most part, what I do with web these days is we do custom WordPress sites. So it's a lot of PHP, HTML, CSS, some JavaScript, some jQuery, ActionScript once in a while. I have several sites that I've done that use Flash. So still get to use Flash, but not as much as I used to. But all the animation jobs I worked on, I mentioned this earlier, they all used Flash. So they would use a combination of Flash animation. Some of them would use ActionScript for some things. And then it was a combination of Maya and 3D or 3D Max for like props. One show I worked on, they made robots and cars and things that were all 3D. And then we would composite it with flat 2D Flash animation and then add effects with After Effects. So that was a really fun job. But my life these days is pretty much all web, and that seems to be where things are going. So web's definitely a great industry to get involved with. And if you like doing design, there's certainly I would say that you have an edge on some of the other developers because most developers that I know don't really like to do design. So if you're a good designer and you like to program and code, then I think that puts you at an advantage. It kind of makes you stand out. Yeah, I mean, in WordPress, you are definitely going to be using HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript. I mean, to make anything like all the sliders, embedding videos, doing interactive components, that's all going to be using. You can use ActionScript, you can use JavaScript. jQuery is what's used to make, a lot of the things you see on the web these days, like all the sliders and Lightbox, all that stuff that everybody wants on their website. Yeah, WordPress. You can pretty much do anything you want with it. You don't have as much freedom if you're using existing WordPress themes. Sometimes we edit existing themes for clients that don't want to pay for a custom theme. But WordPress is basically just like a regular website. You're just using PHP to call the different pieces of the website together. That's what allows the client to go back in and edit their content. So it's like you'd have a page where the PHP is pulling your header, pulling your navigation, pulling different elements on the page, and then the client can be editing the content that then gets pulled into the page. But you can put anything on a WordPress site. You could do a Flash WordPress site if you wanted. You would just have to have somewhere for the content to go. So it'd be you could do like a hybrid Flash HTML site. I think you do learn, just going back, somebody said something about HTML5 earlier. I think you do have some classes that might include some HTML5. I know the class I was teaching before was talking about completely switching to HTML5. I know right now they're going to try to start introducing responsive web design. But that one's it's a really basic course. So if that one's talking about introducing HTML5, then I'm sure in the web program you guys will be learning it. So at this point, you haven't even really had many HTML, CSS related classes, right? Okay, yeah, it's weird. Just I started, learning only HTML at first, and then went from there. I Once you guys get to that, for anyone who hasn't done HTML yet, you're gonna have a really easy time. I'm sure it's it's gonna look super basic compared to what you're learning now. So learning markup tags, markup language is not very difficult. So any other questions about ActionScript or your assignment this week or anything? Yeah, you're going to find that a lot with Full Sail. They change the programs a lot. So one thing that's nice is since they do change the programs a lot, they want to stay up to date with everything. You can come back when you graduate and audit classes whenever you want. So, and that doesn't mean you have to come sit on campus. You can audit classes online. So if there's something you want to brush up on, or 2 years from now you realize this class is similar but teaching something different, you can go back and take the class again, essentially. Yeah, it's nice. So it can be frustrating if you started and then a year later, before you're done, the program changes or there's new classes introduced that maybe you aren't necessarily going to take, or they change classes you've already taken. It's going to happen because of the field that you guys are working in, or you're going to try to work in. Everything changes so fast. I mean, I don't feel like it was that long ago that I was learning HTML in the first versions of Dreamweaver, and now everything's so different. I pretty much had to reteach myself web design when I got back into it. So, and if you don't keep up with it, that will happen to you too. So yeah, definitely take advantage of that benefit. Then I would highly suggest going back and auditing courses. It can be a seller for employers too. If you get hired for something, you can mention that since you went to Full Sail, you can go back and brush up on your skills anytime you want. I actually use Dreamweaver a lot just because I've used it forever. And you can code you can't do ActionScript in it, but you can do any other language in Dreamweaver, and it works exactly like any of the other ones that are out there. I have a list. I have a list somewhere of some of the other ones that are used by people at Full Sail, but I feel like every instructor I talk to likes a different one. So, you could Google, look for like free environments. Sublime's great. I've used that. I've used lots of different ones. Just trying to see. What's the other one I had? I took it out. I had a couple others installed that I was using, but Sublime's a big one. Learning C++. This W3 school site. Do I have C++? Maybe I lied. Maybe not. Lynda would be a good place to start. There's YouTube videos. There's resources like look up Code Academy. There's tons of stuff out there for learning other programming languages. And some of them you'll get the certificates from. So, yeah, Code Academy. There's all kinds of them out there. I would look wherever you live too. Look up developers groups and like meetups. A lot of my developer friends love going to those things, and they get a lot from it. I go to them once in a while when I can, but I would check that out. So don't start learning all these other languages yet. Make sure you focus on ActionScript. I haven't attended specifically a web developer conference. I have attended conferences that include web development, but usually cover a variety of other things as well. But see what's out there. If you go sign up for Adobe, like get your Adobe user ID, you can see different conferences and things that they're doing. Just look up to like developer meetups, or like LinkedIn might be, if you're not on LinkedIn, that may be a good place to try to find information about that kind of stuff. So you can find like local groups, or you might find like somebody's Twitter that has information about it. So don't forget about the internet. I know it's overwhelming when you have all these resources you're given in class and you kind of forget that you can go out and look things up on your own too. I have heard of some really good ones. It's not coming to me off the top of my head. A lot of my friends go to local events, but there are some really good big ones that I can let you guys know if I think of one. That would be a good one to try attending. Yeah, another person to ask might be if you see Rebecca Carroll online. She keeps up with that stuff pretty well. So she might know of like a really great one. Any other questions or comments, discussions? Definitely check out these videos when you have a chance, especially if there's something that is a little bit confusing. Hopefully, seeing it presented different ways will just help clarify things for you. Download the PDF if you haven't. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the